Bedtime from Abroad presents The Death of Baldr from the Elder Edda. Amid confusion and struggle of various kinds, life thus ran its course among the Aesir, yet Baldr still remained to them the god of innocence and purity. While he survived, evil and violence could not gain supremacy in the universe. There came a time, however, when he began to be visited by disquieting dreams, which filled all the gods with foreboding. The Aesir and the goddesses held a general assembly to inquire into the meaning of these portents. Odin himself ran forth on Sleipnir into the very depths of Niflheim to take counsel with the departed Sibyl or prophetess. He arrived at the high hall of Hel, and to the east of the door, where lay the grave of the Sibyl, he took his station and chanted his incantation to waken the dead. The Sibyl, compelled to rise from her grave, asked who had come to disturb her rest. "The snow covered me," she said. "The rain beat upon me, and the moist dews fell over me. I had long been dead." Odin answered, "I am named Vegtam, the son of Voltam. Tell me now for whom Hel has adorned her hall." "For Baldr the mead is brewed, and the Aesir are sore afflicted." "Who then shall bring death upon Baldr?" "Hod shall bring death to Baldr," was her response. "Who shall avenge his death upon Hod?" asked Odin. "Rind shall bear a son, Vali, in the West Halls," she replied. "He shall never wash his hands nor comb his hair until he has brought Baldr's slayer to the funeral pyre. 1 night old he shall kill him." "Speak, be not yet silent," said Odin. "Still more would I fain to learn. Who are the maidens that are weeping sorely and throwing their neckerchiefs into the air?" "Now I know you are not Vegtam, as you have said, but Odin," answered the prophetess. "And you are neither Sibyl nor wise woman. You are the mother of 3, Thursar." "Ride home again, Odin," said the prophetess, "and return to me when Loki has regained his freedom and the twilight of the gods is near at hand." Frigg now bound all things by an oath that they would do Baldr no harm: fire and water, iron and all manner of metals, rocks, earth, trees, maladies, beasts and birds, poisons and serpents. Now, the Aesir, deeming themselves secure, even found amusement at their assemblies in having Baldr stand forward while the others shot missiles at him, aiming blows at him or threw stones at him. Whatever they might do, he suffered no wound. Loki, meanwhile, was not pleased. Assuming the shape of a woman, he paid a visit to Frigg at Vensalir. Frigg asked the woman what the Aesir were occupied with at their assembly. "They are shooting at Baldr without working him the least injury," she said. "Neither weapons nor trees shall do him any harm, for I have bound all things by an oath." "Is it really true that all things have sworn to spare Baldr?" the woman asked. "All things except only a tiny sprig growing west of Valhalla, called mistletoe. I deemed it too young a thing to be bound by an oath." Now, Loki went away, tore up the mistletoe, and carried it off to the assembly. Hod, because of his blindness, was standing at the outer edge of the circle. Loki asked him why he too was not shooting at Baldr. "I cannot see where he is standing, and besides, I have no weapon," answered Hod. "Nevertheless, you ought to follow the example of the others," said Loki, "and thus pay equal honor to Baldr. Take this wand and shoot at him. I will show you where he is standing." Hod grasped the mistletoe, took his position according to Loki's bidding, and let fly at Baldr. The bolt sped directly through his body, and he sank down, dead. thus came about the greatest mischance that ever befell gods and men. When the Aesir saw Baldr fall to the ground, they were speechless with fear, and none moved a finger to lift him up. They looked at one another, and all alike were filled with wrath at the man who had brought the deed to pass. Yet they were powerless to avenge the murder, since the spot on which they stood had been solemnly set aside as a sanctuary. For a time they were unable to utter a word for weeping. Odin above all felt the force of the blow, for he saw most clearly what a loss had befallen the Aesir through Baldr's death. When the gods had in part regained their composure, Frigg asked who among the Aesir would undertake to gain her favor by riding the Hell ways to seek speech with Baldr and to learn from Hel what recompense she would demand for permitting Baldr's release and his return to Asgard. Hermod the Bold, Odin's son, declared himself willing. Having got the loan of Sleipnir for the journey, he mounted and took the road with the utmost speed. The Aesir took Baldr's body and bore it down to the sea. There lay his great ship, Ringhorni, drawn up on land. With the intention of using it for Baldr's funeral pyre, they strove to launch it, but were unable to move it from the spot. They were therefore compelled to send a message to Jotunheim to summon the giantess Hyrrokin, and she came riding to them mounted on a wolf, which she guided by vipers in lieu of reins. She dismounted, and Odin assigned 4 berserks to the task of holding her steed. They could not restrain the wolf, however, before they had thrown it to the ground. The giantess stepped to the prow of the boat, and at the first effort shoved it off so fast that the rollers burst into flame, and the whole earth trembled. Thor, his wrath getting the better of him, wanted to crush her head, but all the other gods interceded on her behalf. Now, the body of Baldr was carried out onto the ship, and when his wife Nanna saw what was happening, her heart broke for sorrow, so her body was also laid on the pyre. The fire was then kindled, and Thor came forward and consecrated the pyre with Mjolnir. Just at that moment, a dwarf named Lit ran in front of him, and Thor spurned the dwarf into the fire, where he too was burned. Beings of many kind came to see the burning. First of all was Odin, and with him Frigg, the Valkyries, and Odin's ravens. Frey drove a cart drawn by the boar Gullingbusti, otherwise called Sleitruktani. Heimdall rode his horse Goldtop, and Freya drove her cats. Throngs of Rime-Thursar and Cliff Ettins presented themselves likewise. Odin laid on the pile the ring dropped near. Baldr's horse was also led fully caparisoned onto the blazing ship. In the meantime, Hermod was on his way to Hel. 9 nights he rode through dark and deep valleys, and saw nothing until he came to the river Gjöll, and rode out onto the bridge of Gjöll, which is paved with gleaming gold. A maiden named Magud, who keeps watch over the bridge, asked his name and kindred. Then she told him that not many days before, 5 companies of dead men had ridden across the bridge. "And yet," she said, "it thunders as loudly beneath your paces alone as beneath the feet of all of them together. Nor have you the visage of a dead man. Why are you riding alone on the way to Hel?" "I am riding to Hel," answered Hermod, "in search of Baldr. Have you seen him pass along the way of Hel?" She told him that Baldr had already traversed the bridge of Gjöll. "The way of Hel lies downward and northward." Hermod rode on until he arrived at Helgate. There he dismounted, tightened his saddle girths, mounted once more, and struck spurs to his horse. The horse jumped so high above the gate that he did not so much as touch it with his hoof. Hermod rode straight to the hall, dismounted, and stepped inside. There, he saw his brother Baldr sitting in the high seat. He remained in the hall during the night. In the morning, he asked Hel to permit Baldr to ride away with him, telling her at the same time how great was the grief of the Aesir. Hel answered that she meant to assure herself beforehand whether Baldr was really so beloved as he was reputed to be. "If all things on earth," she said, "be they quick or dead, will weep for him, then he shall return to the Aesir. But if there is one thing that will not weep, he shall remain with me." Then Hermod arose, and Baldr followed him out to the door and bade him give Odin the ring Draupnir in memory of him. Nanna gave into his charge a kerchief for Frigg and other gifts besides, and for Fula a finger ring. Thereupon Hermod rode forth on his journey until he came back to Asgard, where he imparted to the gods all he had seen and heard. The Aesir now sent messengers throughout the whole world to ask all things to weep for Baldr's release from hell. All things did weep: men, beasts, earth, trees, and all manner of metals, and they can still be seen weeping whenever they pass from frost to heat. But when the messengers, their errand done, were returning home again, they discovered among the rocks a giantess named Thok. Her too they asked to weep Baldr out of the bounds of hell. But she replied, "Thok shall weep dry tears on Baldr's pyre. Nor in life nor in death did Garl's son bring me joy. Hell hold what she hath." Baldr's homecoming thus came to naught. The giantess was none other than Loki, who by such means finished his evil deed. Retribution, however, soon fell upon him. Upon Hod as well Baldr's death was to be avenged, and according to the Sibyl's decree to Odin, vengeance was to come at the hands of Vali, the son of Odin and Rind. The particulars of his doom are not recorded in the Eddas. The End. Ragnarok, the fate of the gods. From the Elder Edda. Someday, whenever the Norns, those inscrutable spinners of fate, decree it, there shall come a great winter, a Fimbulvetur, unlike any other the world has yet seen. The biting winds will blow snows from all directions, and the warmth of the sun will fail, plunging the earth into unprecedented cold. The winter shall last for the length of 3 normal winters, with no summers in between. Mankind will become so desperate for food and other necessities of life that all laws and morals will fall away, leaving only the bare struggle for survival. It will be an age of swords and axes. Brother will slay brother, father will slay son, and son will slay father. The wolves, Skull and Hati, who have hunted the sun and moon through the sky since the beginning of time, will at last catch their prey. The stars too will disappear, leaving nothing but a black void in the heavens. Yggdrasil, the great tree that holds the cosmos together, will tremble, and all the trees and even the mountains will fall to the ground. The chain that has been holding back the monstrous wolf Fenrir will snap, and the beast will run free. Jormungand, the mighty serpent who dwells at the bottom of the ocean and encircles the land, will rise from the depths, spilling the seas over all the earth as he makes landfall. These convulsions will shake the ship Naglfar free from the moorings. This ship, which is made from the fingernails and toenails of dead men and women, will sail easily over the flooded earth, Its crew will be an army of giants, the forces of chaos and destruction. And its captain will be none other than Loki, the traitor to the gods, who will have been broken free of the chains in which the gods have bound him. Fenrir, with fire blazing from his eyes and nostrils, will run across the earth, with his lower jaw on the ground and his upper jaw against the top of the sky, devouring everything in his path. Jormungand will spit his venom over all the earth, poisoning land, water, and air alike. The dome of the sky will be split, and from the cracks shall emerge the fire giants from Muspelheim. Their leader shall be Surt, with a flaming sword brighter than the sun in his hand. As they march across Bifrost, the rainbow bridge to Asgard, the home of the gods, the bridge will break and fall behind them. An ominous horn blast will ring out. This will be Heimdall, the divine sentry, blowing the Gjallar horn to announce the arrival of the moment the gods have feared. Odin will anxiously consult the head of Mimir, the wisest of all beings, for counsel. The gods will decide to go to battle, even though they know what the prophecies have foretold concerning the outcome of this clash. They will arm themselves and meet their enemies on a battlefield called Vigrid. Odin will fight Fenrir, and by his side will be the Einherjar, the host of his chosen human warriors whom he has kept in Valhalla for just this moment. Odin and the champions of men will fight more valiantly than anyone has ever fought before. But it will not be enough. Fenrir will swallow Odin and his men. Then one of Odin's sons, Vidar, burning with rage, will charge the beast to avenge his father. On one of his feet will be the shoe that has been crafted for this very purpose. It has been made from all the scraps of leather that human shoemakers have ever discarded, and with it, Vidar will hold open the monster's mouth. Then he will stab his sword through the wolf's throat, killing him. Another wolf, Garm, and the god Tyr will slay each other. Heimdall and Loki will do the same, putting a final end to the trickster's treachery, but costing the gods one of their best in the process. The god Freyr and the giant Surt will also be the end of each other. Thor and Jormungand, those age-old foes, will both finally have their chance to kill the other. Thor will succeed in felling the great snake with the blows of his hammer, but the serpent will have covered him in so much venom that he will not be able to stand for much longer. He will take 9 paces before falling dead himself and adding his blood to the already saturated soil of Vigrid. Then the remains of the world will sink into the sea, and there will be nothing left but the void. Creation and all that has occurred since will be completely undone, as if it had never happened. Some say that this is the end of the tale, and of all tales for that matter, but others hold that a new world, green and beautiful, will arise out of the waters. Vidar and a few other gods, Vali, Baldr, Haldr, and Thor's sons, Modi and Magni, will survive the downfall of the old world and will live joyously in the new one. A man and a woman, Leif and Leifthrassir, will have hidden themselves from the cataclysm in a place called the Wood of Hodmimir, and will now come out and populate the lush land in which they find themselves. A new sun, the daughter of the previous one, will rise in the sky, and all of this will be presided over by a new almighty ruler. The end.